Welcome to Attitude. I'm Mary Arnott. This episode of Attitude is all about going green, what it means for homes and businesses, and what are some of the current considerations and technologies. So grab your laptop if you want to make some notes, or you can email me after the show at attitude@hcam.tv. My guest is Tom Dawson, a Hopkinton resident who has had a passion for all things sustainable, ecological, and environmental since his childhood. Tom is a registered architect in Massachusetts and a LEED certified green designer since 2003. LEED means Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. Tom is also an AIA member, that being the American Institute of Architects. Tom grew up in Virginia, but he started working in the architectural profession in Boston in 1986. He also worked for the Hopkinton firm of Gorman Richardson Architects before branching out on his own. As sole proprietor of T. Dawson Architecture, Tom consults in the areas of green design, solar electrics, solar thermal, and geothermal energy systems for residential and commercial applications. Fortunately for our planet, adventure capital investments to the tune of $5 billion last year and a more conscientious public are generating a lot of excitement about energy alternatives and green design. Welcome, Tom. I'm glad you're here to bring us up to date on going green. But before we delve into your area of expertise, I'd like to talk a little bit about the new Hopkinton Sustainable Green Committee, HopGreen. What can you tell us about it?
Well, thank you, Mary, for having me.
You're welcome.
Our Hopkinton SGC, or Sustainable Green Committee, as it's currently called, was just formed. Actually, it was just green-lighted by the Board of Selectmen a couple of months ago, or actually late summer. Our committee has a pretty good following so far and a pretty good membership drive. We're growing slowly. Our mission, and that mission is evolving as well, but so far it's to assist the town in developing cost-effective, sustainable practices to aid town government, existing and future businesses, and residents. Further, to educate, promote, and encourage sustainable practices through activities, programs, and presenting information relating to the worldwide green movement. That's a little something that I added, so that's not an official part of the mission statement yet, but I'm working with the chairman, John Mosier.
John Mosier's chairman, all right.
John Mosier's chairman, and we have several subcommittees already in place and also forming as we decide what our mission is and how we do what the Board of Selectmen and what the town want us to do. Mm-hmm. Some of our recent projects with their own sub-missions include a presentation to the Planning Board. We're planning a presentation to the Planning Board to present everything green that we know of, building green guidelines, systems, incentives, and everything relating to alternative energy and what we could be considering here in Hopkinton.
Well, I have to confess, I was out on the website the other day and I was very impressed. They have a lot of information, green tips, and a lot of things, so our audience should reference that when they can. And we'll put the website up at the end of the show so they know where to go for that.
Excellent. Another thing that's currently happening is regulations regarding wind power, both for residential and commercial applications in town. And we're working with the Zoning Advisory Committee to develop the bylaws and the legislation surrounding.
So it sounds like the committee's off to a great start, because they were just recently formed, right, as you said?
Correct,
yeah.
Correct. Website is further in development. Obviously, we need a home for all of our information. And we're also planning a town-wide cleanup in 2009 for the greening of Hopkinton. So,
sounds like a good activity. Is there anything else you want to mention about HopGreen before we delve into your areas of expertise and interest?
No, I think that covers it.
All right. We'll make sure the folks get the website that they can reference. Where would you like to start in terms of talking about energy alternatives or green designs?
Well, I thought I would start. I know that because of the recent acceptance worldwide of the green movement and everything relating to green, I don't want to work backwards and define sustainability again, because I think everybody has a pretty good understanding now what it is, although there's a lot of greenwashing out there that you have to be aware of, and which is basically using green tactics to sell things that may or may not be green, but that's a separate and distinct issue all in itself. I would like to recap a little bit on some of the statistical information regarding why it's important to go green and what our impact is. In New England, burning fossil fuels accounts for about 68% of all the electricity generated. So you can see, there's a huge incentive or area there for us to start looking at solar electric or PV, photovoltaic energy, and other ways to harness energy from the earth or what's provided or from the environment.
Such as the wind power, like I noticed you've got your buttons there.
Yes, I've got my yes to the Cape Wind project. This is put out by Clean Power Now, which is a quasi-public organization down on the Cape that is supporting the Cape Wind project, which has been controversial a little bit over the last few years, but looks like it will push forward, I think, in the next couple of years.
I was going to say, in some circles it's very controversial, but definitely an alternative energy source. So.
Well, and actually the huge volume guide that was needed to be prepared by the Cape Wind Association that had to be presented to the Army Corps of Engineers initially was about as thick as a New York City phone book, and the only resulting issue about the entire project was the view. There were no environmental impacts, there were no bird or migratory bird or fisheries or any other negative impacts of the project other than the view. But since then, a few years ago, several other roadblocks have been thrown up to block the passage of the acceptance of the project. But every one of those seems to be dealt with, and I think that it will eventually get approved. I hope that it will.
It's been taking some time, but we'll see where it goes. What else do you have there to tell us?
Well, I wanted to also mention that solar energy is the most abundant, underutilized energy source that there is, and probably that there ever will be. In addition to that, there's geothermal, which is harnessing energy from the earth that's provided at a moderate and regulated temperature by the Earth's core and by the earth layers. That is another very effective way to harness energy from the earth, but it is a little more expensive than solar or wind or or obviously the conventional methods. But it is probably one of the most underutilized areas of energy capture that we have also too. So
I heard something this morning on the news about some guy who's trying to raise money to tap into volcanoes for geothermal energy, and I thought, sounds a little dangerous to me, but all right.
Sounds like you'd get a lot of steam.
Yeah.
I would say some other things, regarding energy, and also the big picture. Thinking outside the box, I think, is an old saying, but I think that's gone. The box is gone. The box is bankrupt. So basically, everything we know that we've come up with up until now, with regard to energy and economics, has been tested, or it's been questioned, and we've seen that in the economies throughout the world and what's happening right now in our own country. Without going further into that, I will say that what I've read is that our oil usage, our peak oil, is closely approaching. So we will get to the point where we will not be able to find any more oil, but we're continuing to still use that oil up at a pretty alarming rate.
Well, we don't want to spend all the time talking about that because I know there's another area that you want to get into, and that's really about green designs, which is quite a bit of the work that you do. If someone was going to build a new home or upgrade their home or business, what would be some of the recommendations or things that you would talk about in terms of what should go into the thought process of building a new home or upgrading their home?
Well, I think if they're planning to build a new house or facility, that they should think about the site, that they should think about their building as potentially being responsive to the site and being more like an organism than an assembly of building products. I know historically a lot of houses just get built and the most number of houses possible gets jammed into a development, obviously for economic and profit reasons, which I understand, but if you could take a parcel that has so many houses and divide that number of houses in half to make every house more responsive, every site more accessible to the potential for alternative energy, solar, wind, geothermal, then I think that's a new way of thinking about how to build. And I think, you know, the conventional, like I mentioned, the conventional methodologies for a lot of things have been tested and are going to be rebuilt almost from scratch.
Well, that sounds like it adds a whole nother new level to location. You know, for a real estate concern, you're actually talking about making sure that you really consider where the lot is, maybe where you place the home or the business on the lot, those kinds of things?
Correct. How you place the building on the lot, which way it faces, which way, if you want sun on one of the faces, obviously you're going to want that facing south. And items like wind, the prevailing winds, which way are they coming? So there's a lot more work that has to go into understanding a site and understanding the demographics of the site or the property.
Especially if you want to build green and you want to take advantage of things like solar power and solar electrics, or what you call it.
I mean, Mary, typically more money is used or needed at the beginning of planning a green project or truly green building, meaning that it's more integrated. There's more thought that has to go into it up front than just the same old. Because especially if you're changing a utility or going off-grid or going to zero energy homes and businesses, which is possible, but that's kind of one extreme. But somebody putting an addition on their house might consider the size of the addition relative to those factors, where the sun is, where the solar angles are, where the wind is, what the potential is for something else than just getting the biggest possible box for the dollar.
Now, as a green designer, are you finding that there are developers who are more willing to work with you to help the potential new homeowner in terms of the types of technologies and things they should be looking at for building a new home?
I have seen that, and I think a lot of it is because of attrition and because of the builders and developers realizing that they need to give more or create more per dollar for what they're providing, because the consumer and all of us is more educated now in what we want. We want more performance from our buildings, especially businesses. Better buildings are better to occupy, have lower maintenance, are better inside in terms of environmental air quality inside the building, as well as anything coming out of the building on the outside. In the case of a business, a healthier building has higher retention rates of employees and also lower rates of people calling in sick.
Oh, that's right.
And buildings can even, keep people from getting asthma. I mean, if you can believe that, asthma rates have gone up over the last several decades, and I think the world is just now figuring that maybe buildings had a big part of the reason why that is.
And obviously the materials going into the buildings and homes. In fact, I think you've brought some things here with you. Is there anything there you want to share with us and talk about in terms of, we've talked a little bit about make sure the lot is, and where you're going to place your house or your building on the lot is important. And obviously what goes into it.
Yeah, well, I did bring, this is Icynene insulation. And it is a closed cell, non-toxic, non-VOC, non-bug eating insulation that is waterborne. In other words, it's got a water bonding agent.
I see that.
And it looks like a styrofoam cup, but it's 2.5 to 3 times as expensive as regular batt insulation, which is the roll-out pink stuff that most people have in their homes. But this,
I know that's what's in my attic.
but this product far outperforms pink insulation and other forms of insulation. It's similar to a blown-in, although this is put in by crews that have to wear not hazmat suits, but they have to wear protective gear, because if they were to inhale this, it could get in and clog their lungs. But it's not toxic. The only reason they wear protection is that they don't breathe it in. It expands at about, goes in at about a 1/8 of an inch and expands out to several inches, and then the excess is cut off. So basically it fills every void and nook and cranny. It has acoustic quality to it. Say if you're in a loud spot and you want to dampen the sound, you can use this instead of batt insulation. If you're doing a full renovation of an old house, you can strip it down to the studs. And if you have an unequal stud spacing, you can use this. It is more expensive, but like anything, you get a lot more out of it than you put in. And there's a reason why builders put the roll-out pink stuff that you find at Home Depot and Lowe's. There's a reason why that's in every house. It's not because it's the best.
Inexpensive. But this, over the long run, is going to save you energy costs, because you won't lose energy from using the less expensive insulation.
Absolutely. In the industry and in their propaganda, their literature, and I know a lot of people in that area, they joke and say you can heat with a candle. Once you have a building that's so well insulated, and obviously that's a bit of an exaggeration, but your infrastructure costs will go significantly down. They've estimated that using this could save about 60% a year on just your heating cost, and about 15% a year on your cooling cost. So,
are there other aspects, or I should say materials, going into?
Well, I brought, this is bamboo flooring.
Oh yeah, bamboo. Yeah.
And I brought this just to show a sample of it, that it looks a lot like hardwood floor with the tongue and groove. It's actually a vertical grain bamboo flooring, and actually you can see the little, it's basically pulled in strips and then laminated together with a...
I don't know if the cameras can do it justice, but it looks very nice, and it's renewable. So
it is very nice. Bamboo is a grass, it's not a tree, and it regenerates about 6 times faster than a tree. So it's a green product. Now, the one downside is, because a lot of it is still made in China, it has a high embodied energy, which means that it has a lot of energy associated with it, with creating it and getting it here. So, but still, it's less trees that need to be cut.
Yeah, and maybe over time the cost of actually producing it will come down, because we are closing the margin on costs of
absolutely
these in green design.
Absolutely, as money, and as you mentioned at the beginning, as money gets dumped in by venture capitalists for R&D, research and development, then there's more money available for these companies to develop better products, and also there's more money for competitors, which makes everybody perform better in terms of a business.
Are there other areas in terms of design or upgrades in homes and buildings you'd like to talk about, or?
Well, solar electric, which is PV, which is we've mentioned that a little bit. There are incentives with the Mass Technology Collaborative for both businesses and residential customers to obtain, I think it's up to about $20,000 a year in incentive payback for installing solar electric systems. So that, combined with one-time federal tax credits and maybe any other local rebates that are available, it almost makes, doing photovoltaics, PV, solar electric, a no-brainer.
Which is the solar panels. Are there other systems when you talk about solar electrics, or we're talking primarily about the solar panels?
Well, there's solar electric, which is PV, and then there's also solar hot water, which, like domestic hot water, it's actually, I think it's a little more efficient than PV or solar electric, although solar electric percentages are gaining every year, again with that R&D money. But solar thermal is basically hot water heating through tubes on your roof. And it's not like what you remember from the 70s with the white PVC systems on roofs. Now there's so many different, more efficient, smaller modules, better efficiency, better contact type systems that are available. And also the systems that are inside the house are smaller, smarter, closed circuit control boards and all that stuff. So
well, we could spend a whole show just talking about that,
yes,
right?
Yes, we could. And we could go see some if you wanted to.
Yeah, we'll have to do that sometime. What other areas did you want to talk about in terms of design or energy alternatives?
Well, we can also chat briefly about wind. The people in the wind industry say that the wind development and money for wind development is growing at about a six times fold rate every year in terms of amount of interest and money available. The people in the business say that the secret is that the wind blows at night. So what that's one thing that they talk about, which is kind of funny, how they compete with the solar electric people. But but wind power is also something that's very viable. It's a little more of a challenge to get it approved by town boards and planning boards, etc., because it's a moving entity and it's a tower. But I think that's got real potential too.
I can't believe it. We're almost at the end of our program here. It's like time just went so fast, and there's so many things I want to ask you about all of this. Is there any final points or recommendations you want to make for our audience?
I could say a few things, yeah.
Well, we've got about a minute or so to a couple minutes to wrap up.
Well, one thing I could mention that they've estimated that about a dollar, let me see here, a dollar saved in energy costs per year on your utilities adds, I think, close to $20 in overall value of your property. So whether you have a residence or a business, I think that could apply, obviously.
That's pretty startling.
And in an economy that's in a downturn, I think that the time is really now to embrace green technology and green living, green thinking, more so by choice than by being forced to. So, do I have another minute?
Yeah, we're just about. We're definitely going to have to get you back here sometime, though, and talk about some more of these areas and delve into a little deeper, because there's just too much here to do in a half-hour show. So.
Okay. Well, in closing, I was going to say that the age of saving the planet, you remember, from the 70s, I think it's over. I think it's more now about saving humanity. I mean, the earth, or Mother Nature, is, as I've seen and as I've read, will always try to maintain that equilibrium in nature. And if we upset it by our actions, then we might have things like Katrina that occur that are a warning sign. And I hope we take that warning seriously, and and I think with new politics and new administrations, I think we're heading in the right direction. I just feel like, we don't have to save the planet, because the planet will do what it has to do to maintain that equilibrium. I don't think the planet cares about human beings or even knows about us, but we do live here. So obviously we have an interest in taking care of the planet.
Well, I'm getting the big high sign here that we have to wrap up. Tom, I want to thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge with us, and, well, or just a portion of it. We're going to definitely have to get you back and talk some more about this. That brings us to the end of another episode of Attitude. As a closing thought, Benjamin Franklin once said, "Energy and persistence conquers all things," or in today's world of global warming and environmental challenges, he might have said, "Alternative energies, green designs, and persistence conquers all things environmentally wasteful." Thanks to the HCAM staff and volunteers for bringing this show to life. Please watch the credits for websites that will help you go green. See you next time. I'm Mary Arnott, signing out with Attitude.